This week's video, I wrote half of this and then I word vomited the rest. So hopefully it all makes sense somewhere in your mind. Hey guys, what's up? It's Katrina, aka Ninny, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the number one thing I think you should never tell somebody who's grieving. So when you lose your boyfriend or girlfriend or anybody really, people get really awkward with you, and we oftentimes don't know what to say to somebody who's grieving. And even to this day, sometimes I even get awkward with it, even though I'm doing these videos talking about grief. Sometimes it's just, it's a delicate topic and no one really knows what exactly to say sometimes, because I feel like a lot of the times you want to say something really expressive other than my condolences or so sorry for your loss. I feel like sometimes you want to give a bit more advice to somebody, but that's not always the best option. I also learned going through counseling that a lot of the times what people will say to you isn't actually for your benefit, it's for their own benefit. Now, basically what that means is that they just want to feel, and by they I mean the people that are talking to you, they just want to feel like they've given you advice and they've contributed to you in some substantial way without realizing what they're saying could actually be detrimental or not helpful in any way, shape, or form. What I think is the dumbest is let it go. Move on already. Girl, do I have blonde hair? No. Do I like the cold? No. I'm not Elsa. I'm not letting anything go. Move on. Excuse me? Sorry, what? It just is in no way helpful to tell somebody that. And there are two types of people that might say this to you. One, people who are just ignorant and can't fathom what you're going through. And they get frustrated because they've already given you so much advice. They don't understand why you can't take it and act upon it. And the second person is yourself. You might get frustrated with yourself that you aren't feeling better within a certain amount of time, or you're not back to normal when you thought you were going to be back to normal. Don't put those expectations on yourself. This loss will be with you for the rest of your life. It'll get easier to deal with. The weight will lift eventually. You will accept it eventually. But this is the type of loss, well, any loss really, any significant loss, it will shape you into a different human being. So long as you remember that, you won't feel guilty or inadequate when someone tries to tell you to let it go already or move on. And you won't put yourself in a downward spiral based on something that somebody said to you that they really shouldn't have. You will move through your own grief during your time, not based on somebody else's timeline, okay? It's your journey, not theirs. The first time I had somebody say it to me, it wasn't actually vocalized. I think it was in a card or something like that. They didn't write the words, somebody else wrote the words. And I destroyed the card because I thought it was really dumb. I can't let him go. He's a huge part of me. He's a huge part of the person who I am today. I'm not letting anything go, and I shouldn't have to. But the second time somebody said it to me, it was actually vocalized to me from somebody that should have been showing me love and support. And it just baffled me when I heard the words come out of their mouth. Just let it go already. Again, I don't have to let anything go that I don't want to. And I'm not going to. Michael was a very big part of my life and still is a very big part of my life. You don't let somebody like that go. Those memories, I just think it's a really backwards way to push somebody through their grief. You lose somebody that was super important to you, and that doesn't mean you forget about them. If you were to lose your mother, father, brother, sister, grandmother, grandfather, are you going to forget about that person because they're no longer physically here? Are you going to forget the lessons that they taught you because they're no longer physically here? Absolutely not. That doesn't mean you start to live your life like they never existed. Part of my struggle with my grief was trying to figure out who Michael was to me now. He was no longer my boyfriend, but he wasn't my ex. I still have love for him, but I can't express that love in the ways I did while he was still physically here. I kept and still keep his memory alive to this day because it helps me deal with losing him. Hello, I'm doing these videos 4 years later. Significant human being in my life. Losing somebody insignificant would not spark these videos. He was one of my reasons for sticking around on this planet because I had to live not just for myself, but for him too. You take him out of the equation, I feel insignificant because I no longer have him here, and you've basically broken my mind. You tell me to let it go or move on, you're breaking my mind into you're not even breaking my mind, because the mind was already broken after losing him. It's like taking those little shards and basically reaching your hand into the pile of them and ripping out a whole bunch and tossing them out the window. I need every speck I have left of my broken mind and heart and soul in order to put myself back together again. Okay? You tell me to let it go or move on, you're taking half that away, and when I try to rebuild myself, I'm not going to be as complete as a human as if you didn't say that to me, as if you didn't let me keep him in my life in the ways that I chose to do so. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's making sense. Because you're not going to be a full human again after losing. I'm like, you will, but you just recognize that part of you is gone because they had a part of you with them. So I guess I'll be a complete human, just like a little chip on my shoulder, missing. Because he's not here. But you tell me to let him go or move on, and you're taking away other parts of me. And you're making me feel guilty that I can't talk about him anymore, that I'm not supposed to be talking about him anymore. And the supposed to be's during your grief, yeah, you ain't got time for that. You're the one making the rules, not everybody else. No one gets to decide how slow or fast you get to grieve. Do I believe sometimes that you need a little push to move you through your grief? Absolutely. Because I didn't get the pushes I got, I wouldn't have gone to counseling. That took my mom coming into my room, sitting on my bed next to me and being like, Lynn, it's time. Here's the phone. Okay? But no one should be telling you to let it go. You just lost the love of your life. Telling somebody to let it go or move on is basically telling them that what they had with that person wasn't anything. Like, losing them doesn't justify you being sad or depressed or any of the other horrible feelings you're feeling. Like you're being dramatic or something, which like obviously isn't the case at all. Everything that you are feeling or experiencing is completely justified. And no one gets to tell you anything different. No one. I don't care if Santa Claus came down and tried to tell you some things about it. Nuh-uh, Santy. Nuh-uh. Like, I just felt like I already lost him physically. Don't rip him away from me any more than he already is. I need his memory. I need to feel that. I need to believe in the signs that I'm seeing. I need to believe in the love that he's still showing me through those signs to even be able to bear the pain that I'm experiencing. I couldn't have him be ripped away from me again through people telling me to let it go and move on. That's not the way to go. Like, I need him around because that's the only way I'm going to survive this. If I can still look back on those memories and still feel like it's okay to talk about him to my friends and family and anybody else that's willing to listen, like you right now watching these videos. Just, you can't tell somebody that. You can't. If I'm going to conceivably bear my grief, I need to be able to talk about him and feel like I'm being heard by people, not that I'm boring them or annoying them with what I have to say. Because it feels better, like from personal experience, it feels better knowing that I can still talk about him to my friends and family openly. There were times during my grieving process where I wasn't sure, like if we were all in a circle talking about something, I wasn't sure if I could be like, oh, I remember this one time with Mike. You know, I felt awkward, like I couldn't talk about it because he's not here. And, oh, do my friends not want to hear me talk about him anymore? It didn't, like, I just felt like there was a wall and I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know if I was still allowed to talk about him. And hearing, like, let it go and stuff, that doesn't help. But once I moved past that thought and that worry and was just like, you know what? This freaking beautiful human being was a part of my life, was a significant part of my life. I'm going to talk about him. To the people that know, I'm going to talk about him. And sometimes when I wanted to talk, I wouldn't say his name in case people around me didn't know who he was. I'd be like, oh, I had a friend once who, or one time a friend and I did this. Just because, you know, I just want to end up in a conversation with people that didn't know. But once I embraced being able to talk about him, I felt so much better. And like a part of that weight that I was carrying around just felt like lifted a bit. If I believe the person that told me to let it go already and move on, I'd feel like I couldn't or wasn't allowed to talk about Mike anymore. And without being able to talk about it, to process it, I would not be in the position that I am in today. That grieving process would have been in my belief, way worse than it already was. And I wouldn't have found the strength one day to make these videos and find a purpose doing these videos. And by extension, I wouldn't be helping people that are dealing with this type of loss or helping other people that know people that are going through this type of loss deal with it and educate them. There is a really great TED Talk by a comedian who lost her husband. Her name's Kelley, Lynn. I will link it down below. And she talks about this. She talks about losing your significant other and how dumb it is to tell somebody to let it go and move on. And she goes through a few examples, including herself, of people that have not only embraced that loss, but embraced it in such a way that they can move forward helping people also deal with this type of loss. Anyways, yeah, that was my biggest frustration. I just thought it was so dumb. Let it go, move on. Who are you to tell me that? I'll wait. Who are you? Oh, but Katrina, this is something else I hated hearing too. Oh, but Katrina, he wouldn't want you to be sad. He wouldn't want you to mope around. What? Let me tell you something real quick. Michael knew what kind of woman I was and still am, okay? I'm a stubborn individual. I'm a loudmouth, obnoxious, opinionated, stubborn individual. All the things he loved about me, plus many more. And I think he would tell me to grieve in any freaking way I wanted to grieve, okay? So don't be using his memory to guilt trip me into forcing myself through my grief process. Doesn't help anybody. You have to feel the things that you are feeling in the time that you are feeling them. You can't push yourself forward because when you do that, years down the road, it's all going to come crashing down on you again. And you won't know how to deal with it, or you won't even know where it's stemming from until you take the time to center yourself and think about it and realize, oh yeah, all X, Y, and Z that came up during this loss that I didn't deal with, oh great, now it's coming up now 5 years later. So you are allowed to talk about the person that you lost. Like I said, they're a significant part of your life. You are allowed to talk about them. And don't let anybody make you feel like you can't. Okay? It's dumb. They're dumb. You're not. Talk about whoever the hell you want to talk about. Okay? Good. I think that's everything. If you stuck around to the end, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because I put out new videos every Wednesday, Tuesdays if I'm feeling ambitious, Thursday if I got busy. Really, I just talk about my life dealing with grief. It's a fun topic. Sorry, comic relief. I'm Ninny, and I'll see you next week. Bye.